Welcome back to the Global Business Report here on Arise News. We stick in Nigeria, head to the brewery sector. Nigerian Breweries, of course, parent company being Heineken, reporting its full-year financials for 2024. 1 trillion naira. About that, 80% for revenues. But they look at cost of sales. I mean, that's grew faster or higher than revenues. 97.5% growth there, 764 billion. So you subtract gross profit 319 billion, and then of course their pre-tax loss 182 billion, and post-tax loss of 144. So let's talk about the brewery sector. Very happy to have Omobolade Agboola, who's an energy and consumer goods analyst at Chapel Hill Denham. One of the busiest analysts I know, because she is always busy, too busy to answer my phone calls. Well, it's good to see you again. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Great to have you. Now, I wanted to start with the revenue breakdown of the company. About 99.9% domestic sales coming from domestic, and then like 0.1 in exports. Should we care? Why is it so lopsided?
First of all, I would just like to start with the fact that Nigerian Breweries is a subsidiary of Heineken.
Right.
And Heineken has global presence, even in Africa, excluding Nigeria. So they are in Ethiopia, Burundi, South Africa, East African countries. So I believe that the focus is more on domestic sales for Nigerian breweries. But, you know, even if we look at it in terms of their export sales, we will see that there's been a slight improvement.
Where?
From 0.03, like that was 5 years ago, to
right.
0.1. It's still an improvement in, in the export sales. So I just think that it's not their main focus for, generating revenue, but, that presents opportunities and, for them to scale their business.
Okay, fantastic. Now, so I guess when you look at the business model for these breweries companies, because of for subsidiaries of these the companies that have this global footprint, exports is not really the name of the game. It's more about your particular domestic market and then the other competition that you're facing there.
So it's my opinion. I believe they are more focused on the domestic market.
Yeah. Okay. Now, on the part of cost of sales, that gargantuan jump of 97.5% year on year, what are the triggers behind that?
The triggers is, firstly, is the cost of raw materials, and secondly is devaluation of the naira. So looking at the cost of raw materials, for context, sorghum prices increased by about 50% year on year. And if you look at it within the year, it was as high as 2 times year on year. So I highlight that the major reason for this increase in cost of sale is the raw material cost.
Now, another issue, of course, that the company has been facing is, the market size, right? So despite these massive hikes in cost of doing business, is the appeal for the Nigerian market still the size with respect to why these companies are still existing despite all the challenges that they're facing?
Yeah, I agree with you when it comes to that, because even the parent company alluded to the fact that Nigeria is one of the largest markets. And looking at the net revenue for the group in 2024, Nigeria was one of the companies that supported the growth that was seen in that period. So I agree that it's the market size that is what is appealing to the parent company as a whole.
The FX losses, is it still the same story? I don't know what else to say anymore, but, is that 157.5 billion, what are we talking about? It's still the devaluation?
It's still the same story, but with a positive outlook.
Okay.
So the same story in the terms that it's devaluation of the naira that has led to this FX loss, but the positive outlook in the sense that they did a rights issue in August 2024, and that was to help them leverage their balance sheets, and that is remove FX loans from their balance sheet, which is the reason for the FX loss initially. So we believe that 2025 will be a better one for Nigerian breweries, since this FX loans is no more in their books, and we are expecting positive or a stable naira in 2025, and we're also expecting lower interest rates in comparison to 2025. So the outlook is still positive for Nigeria.
Okay, well, that's good, because I wanted to take a look at their before I even get to the turnaround plan, the pre-tax losses that we saw, that essentially was a follow-through from the FX losses, right? That was the major issue there.
Yes. So that was the major issue there for 2024. But if you look at Q4 2024 on a standalone basis, we see that they're already on their path to recovery, because we saw some stability in the naira in Q4 2024, and that helped them significantly. So we saw pre-tax profits, that's profit before tax, at about 20 billion naira, and profit after tax about 4.6 billion naira. So it's on its path to recovery. Okay,
good. So thanks. So that now brings me to the turnaround plan that they put out. And I mean, you've already mentioned the rights issue, but I think in addition to that rights issue, I think looking at that 600 billion capital raise, they did suspend some operations in 2 of 9 breweries, and then there was some capacity optimization in 7. Can you talk us through the business plan as to what it is that, in terms of them trying to right the ship?
I think that the essence of everything that they've analyzed and what is on they said they will be doing for business recovery, everything, it just boils down to operational efficiency. Even if there's no you can't just be raising prices and improving products without being operationally efficient. So I think all this just leads us to the step in the right direction in terms of operational efficiency, which is the key to a much more sustainable business for them.
All right, so let's look at the competition now. The smaller players that play in certain regions of the country, are they more nimble, more flexible with respect to the headwinds that they're facing compared to a Nigerian Breweries or the other larger players, or are they all just facing the same? Are they all facing the same headwinds?
It's the same, the macroeconomic environment is the same thing. Guinness has reported the H125 results. That's June to December, because they have a different calendar. So looking at that, they also made a loss of 303 million naira. But if you look at it in Q2 rather for them, Q2 25, that's October to June, they made significant profits at about 12 billion naira. So it just means that, it's the same thing for everyone. And even like international breweries, we expect that when they release the results, the same thing is what we would expect for international breweries too.
So it's a positive story. There is some recovery for these companies.
Yes, there's some recovery.
Okay, so everybody's talking about the rebasing, this big scoop from this day newspaper with respect to the figures that we're seeing. We just had the prior guest to you, Professor Owaleke, talking about the inflation figures. I mean, I know it's a rebasing, right? But we always talk about inflation when we talk about the brewery sector because of the impact on consumer wallets, right? So what do you make of, I guess, the rebasing, at least for CPI anyway? And then I guess what that means for decision makers going forward, analysts like yourself that be looking at those numbers.
So the rebasing, or the figures that we are seeing, didn't come as a surprise, but because even without the rebasing, we're expecting some moderation in inflation on the back of high base effect from last year, and also stability in the naira in 2025. Expectation of a stability in naira in 2025. So it's not a surprise. And if we look at the components of the weightings, we saw there was a removal of about 12 percentage points from food and added to the restaurants and housing aspect. But if we look at economic activities as a contribution to GDP, we see that food is still like 6%, and then the housing and accommodation is about 1%. So it will not have significant weight. So it just means that the impact, even the reducing of the food weight is very significant to how inflation would, continue to be going forward. So reducing it just means that we are reducing inflation, because food, it has the highest, weighting. For the impact on consumer goods, I think that if we continue to see this, sustained moderation in inflation, we would expect that, the monetary authorities would, reduce interest rates, monetary policy rates, which would, scale back to lower interest rates. And this is supportive for the consumer goods, lower financing costs for them. And apart from all this, the most important thing is the stability of the naira.
There you go.
If the naira is not stable, the inflation that we are moderating is going to go back up again, and then consumer goods will still face significant challenges. But the outlook for the naira is positive.
So if I feed that into, I asked you about consumer goods, which is, I guess, overlaps with the breweries. So you would say if your outlook for the breweries would be the same thing then?
Yes, my outlook for the breweries is a recovery story for for all of them, actually. We expect recovery in 2025, their full year results.
Okay. Well, you're a very busy person, always writing great reports. I hope to have you back after some time so we can review and see how they have performed. Omobolade Agboola, Energy Consumer Goods Analyst with Chapel Hill Denham. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.